and welcome to Retroforce Theatre. Today we'll be enjoying a rather exceptional piece, the moving, very touching opera scene from Final Fantasy VI, the one in which the character Celis performs while pretending to be Maria. Playing the parts of Celis today will be our own Chad Conselmo. Let's have a listen, shall we?
Oh, my hero, you're so far away now. Will I ever see your smile? My love goes away like night into day. It's just a fading dream. I'm the darkness. You're the stars. Our love is brighter than the sun. For eternity. What will it be? It can only be only you, my chosen one. Must not forget you. Us. Solemn promise. Will autumn take the place of spring? What shall I do? I'm lost without you. Speak to me once more. Once more. Once more.
Wow, that was lovely.
And flames are pouring from the buildings now. There's cars toppled, buildings entire, just crushed and crumbled. I'm not sure if it's safe to report from my vantage point. I really need to leave. So the fences inform me that the surrounding areas are in ruin. I see some people running now. In the opinion of this reporter, if this nation, or in fact the world, ever needed heroes, that time is now. That time is now.
And welcome to Retroforce Go. This is episode 6. I'm your host, Dyson. Joining me today are my lovely friends, Colette Bennett. Hello. Chad Conselmo.
Dun 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 dun.
Dun 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 dun. And Topher Cantler.
Yay!
Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
I'm ready.
We makes a podcast. Today's going to be a fun show. We're going to talk about RPGs in the second half because we love them. Hopefully you do too. But first things first, we're going to get the downloadable content for the week out of the way. So let's start with the Virtual Console. Once again, 3 releases came out on Monday.
Yeah.
Chad, you were telling me that you loved one of these games more than life itself.
Well, not more than life itself, but I definitely love one of these games. Actually, I love 2 of these games.
Which ones?
Yay, week!
Woo!
Well, there's the best one I think of the bunch is F-Zero X, which came out originally for the Nintendo 64. I don't know if you guys are F-Zero fans like I am.
No.
I'm an F-Zero fan.
No,
You are an F-Zero fan?
Yeah. Well, the first one. I don't think I ever played it for N64, but I love the one for SNES.
Yeah, it's great.
That was the one with all the Mode 7 action.
I know, I was going to say Mode 7 Overload.
I downloaded that game, and it was the first time I've ever, like, aside from the original F-Zero, which I didn't play that much, I played the F-Zero X. It was the first time I've ever played it, and I didn't really like it that much.
Hold up.
Record stops.
I know. If I had a scratching sound effect, I would have played it. Why did you like it? It's a great game.
I don't think
Classic.
it's a bad game, but I think I'm just really bad at it. Like I was flying off the track like every.
No, but honestly,
time.
it's one of the hardest F-Zeros, and it's actually a really hard game. So I totally understand your pain.
Okay, yeah, because I played the death match and then the regular, and I was like all over the board. And I don't know if it's because I was playing with the GameCube controller. Maybe it was easier with the N64 controller. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty good with the classic controller, the one that you can buy. It was cool though for that game.
How is it different from the first one? Because I've not played it. I played the hell out of one for Nintendo, but I haven't.
Obviously, the graphics are obviously a lot better, and it's not Mode 7, it's, all 3D or whatever. But I was going to say, the cool thing about this one is it was like the first game, pretty much of its time on all consoles, that had like that many like cars on screen at once, still running at like 60 frames per second, which is pretty cool. I think like during one race there's like 30 cars, which even nowadays is pretty good, I guess. But it's just more like, yeah, in the first one, for the first one, the Mode 7 was all flat, because they couldn't do like, three-dimensional objects. But this one's cool because, since it's in 3D, there's a lot of loops and like, there's like tubes, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you kind of get motion sickness, actually.
Yeah, you do, actually. That's true. But I just love it. I love
Is
F-Zero
that a good
games.
thing?
I don't know if you like puking, but...
Yeah, I guess it depends.
But yeah, it's fun. I definitely recommend it.
Cool. What was the other one?
There was another version of Street Fighter 2 for the Super
Oh, that's
Nintendo.
right.
Like
Oh,
Hyper
right.
Master Punch
The
Edition.
Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting.
That's it.
Yeah, I love
Which
that
I
game.
love. So do I. It's amazing.
That was so fun. That game back in the day when it came out for the Super Nintendo, we played that so often that when, as a group of friends, we would decide like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna go get something to eat, or are we gonna go get a movie? And like, if someone had two like differing opinions and we couldn't decide, then we'd settle it by playing around like 2 out of 3 rounds of Street Fighter. That brand.
Aww.
Yeah. So it'd be like, okay, all right, we're like, I win, if I win as Ryu, we're going to see this movie. And then the other person will be like, all right, well, if I win as Sagat, then we're going to see this movie. And it was just like, Street Fighter 2 was the law. Like, it was whoever won, that was it. So, they should use that.
really
All
cool.
things should be decided this
Who
way.
was everyone's favorite
I
players
agree.
from Street Fighter 2?
Ryu and Chun-Li.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Chun-Li is like by far my favorite. She was amazing. What about you, Colette? Who did you like?
Well,
Don't say
I'm sorry,
Dalsim.
but no. I'm
You'll go
sorry.
fire.
At that age, I was extremely predictable, and it was totally Chun-Li.
Yeah. I can't
Yeah.
imagine
I was
you
like,
picking
Yeah,
I was
anyone
gonna
else.
say, Colette, you can't not like Chun-Li.
no, I pretty much totally. I was just like, oh, Chun-Li. She has little hair buns, and she kicks ass, and yes.
I'm the strongest woman in the world. Yatta.
Yeah. Like I just totally was.
How about you, Topher? Who did you like?
I totally was Chun-Li too.
Oh, man.
Wow,
Oh, damn.
Chun-Li rocks. This is the
Because
gayest
she was
podcast
fast.
ever.
Like she was the fastest character. You could kick everybody's
Oh,
ass
yeah.
with Chun-Li because she was so fast. Also, there was the whole the panty shot thing. But
Yeah. But that's
Mostly
another
because she
story
was fast.
altogether.
Did you like Did you like Sammy, like the new girl that joined the cast later?
No, that's Cammy.
Oh, that's what I meant. Oops.
Yeah,
Wow, I
no,
see.
she was actually my favorite. I liked her
Cammy, that's what I
moveset
meant.
so much better.
Yeah, she was pretty great.
Yeah, I liked her because she had like the spinning knuckle. I don't know, whatever. I thought she was a good addition, and I was pretty pissed when they like left her out in later ones. But I still had to go with Chun-Li. But I'm always gonna pick Ryu for the original Street Fighters. Later in the alphas, I always take Ken.
Mm-hmm.
I'm predictable. I'm like, give me the ninja.
Yeah, I was gonna say I chose the token girl, so don't feel bad.
Uh-huh. Hey,
I think there was only one girl for a while though. It's so
yeah,
sad.
she was the only female character up until I believe Cammy was introduced.
Cammy, yeah.
Yeah, you're
Or
right. she
Sammy, as
was.
retarded Chad said.
Oh, I know. And then in
Aw.
Alpha they added Rose and Sakura.
Yep.
Let me ask you a question. Because I downloaded the game also and I was playing it, but I don't have the classic controller. I just have the GameCube controller, which makes it fuck all hard to play with this teeny ass little GameCube little D-pad, and the buttons are all screwy. But did you forget? Because I was reminded when I played this. Did you forget how ridiculously unbalanced that game was?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I'm playing and it's like I play
All the
as
Street
Ryu.
Fighters, early Street Fighters were like that.
Oh my god, it's like if you play as Ryu and you go against Ryu, it's like he's the hardest person in the game by far. Like he just sits there and whips fireballs at you because apparently his other super move is telepathy. The moment you fire a fireball, he's right there throwing one back. It's like retarded.
Always.
I know.
And the thing with Street Fighter, especially Street Fighter 2, is you could always like pin someone in the corner, which always pissed me off. It was really easy to do that too. Like, I mean, the minute they got back up, you could just kick them back down again, and like it's so infuriating.
I actually beat Balrog and Zangief that way. I just low kicked the entire time, just low kick.
I know
low
it's
kick.
cheap, but if it works, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I was like, I'm playing with a GameCube controller. Don't hold me to any don't hold me to any skill. So yeah, if you guys download it, make sure you have the classic controller, because otherwise you're gonna hate yourself.
Do you think any of those Street Fighter characters are queer?
You know, if they're
Like,
not,
you know what I always thought was Guile.
I knew it. He was way
Guile.
too focused on his hair.
totally.
And he's in the army, huh?
Exactly.
See, I see signs.
Don't ask, don't tell.
I know, and he's all distraught about that his buddy Charlie was killed. He's like, I'm avenging Charlie.
Wow, we're getting to the bottom of something.
I know. The Secret Life of Guile tonight at 11. But there was one more game that came out this week, and I do you want to say anything about it, Chad?
No, you go ahead, because I know you have a lot more of a stronger opinion than I do.
It's a TurboGrafx game. It is called China Warrior, made by NEC, and it is.
Wasn't that an ABC primetime series in the 80s?
I don't. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that was China Beach.
Yeah, that was China Beach. The drama for women. No, China. Well, you know what? China Beach was far, far better than this game. Let me explain the game to you. You are the China Warrior. It's like a kung fu type game, where your character just moves by itself to the right as enemies come at you from right to left. You can stop him. Like, you can hold back and it'll stop him, and you can duck. And you've got punch and kick. And your character is the worst blatant ripoff of Bruce Lee I have ever seen in my life. You're playing Bruce Lee fighting guy in robe. That's it. It's just it's fucking awful. It's absolutely terrible. And there's these like bricks come out of nowhere, and like moths attack you. And at the end of every level, you fight the same white guy.
I'm sorry, I don't mean that. Did you say moths?
Moths, yes. You're being attacked. Some sort of like flying creature. Yeah, like they come through on this little like arc across the top of the screen, so you gotta duck, and it's like, and then sticks get thrown at you, and then there's your enemies are like these what appear to be guys in robes coming at you from the right. There's the gray robe guy, and then the same guy again, but this time he's green, and he ducks. Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
And
Oh my God,
I think
that
there's
sounds
like
hardcore.
I think there's like maybe like 16 total colors in the entire color palette. I know, shit you not. Like, and then you fight the guy at the end of the I didn't even play past like level like 1-3. I was just like, this is so fucking bad. It's just so awful. You fight at the end of every level. Sorry, is that you basically fight like a fat old Guile. Like, he's got the tank top, and he's got the camo pants, and he's bald, and he's white, and then you just seem to fight him. And then the next level, you fight the same guy, but he's got a different color scheme, and that's it. And I was like, this game blows ass.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't buy it. Don't let your friends buy it. Don't even think about it. You know, go get hypnotized. Make yourself forget that you ever saw it. It's that bad.
When you see games like that, you must think like there has to be a group of executives at Nintendo or wherever that are sitting around deciding on these virtual console releases, and somebody needs to pick that out of a lineup and say, you know, this is the one that's going to be paired up this, or you know,
yeah, like someone knows.
it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. I mean,
what irritates me is like that particular game is a perfect example of how some titles on the virtual console, like, you know how all TurboGrafx 16 titles are 600 Wii points. You know, this one should not be. Like, it's just that bad. You know, you should have like a sliding scale. Like, you know, don't make them all across the board, because you could pay 600 for, you know, Blazing Lasers, but if you paid essentially $6 for this thing, yeah, I want my fucking $6 back. Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm pissed. That game's
yeah,
awful.
you know, it's really odd in that it seems that pretty much, you know, like all the games are coming out and it'll be like, we're going to let you have a good game, we're going to let you have an okay game, but like every, like, I mean, is it just me, or does every assortment have a complete piece of shit in it?
I think that it's a little bit of good with the bad, yeah.
Well,
Like,
maybe
I
they're
mean,
doing that on purpose to make their own games look even better.
it
That's
doesn't
true.
make any sense. It's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're doing that so you'll be able to get, like, maybe they're trying to work the people who are like sitting in front of their Wii's going, I've never heard of that game, or I don't remember that game. Yeah, I'll spend $6. You know,
Yeah,
it's like the
exactly.
whole. It's like when you check out at Target and there's a bunch of shit next to the counter you don't need. You know,
Impulse buy.
Like
Impulse buy?
Altoids.
like Altoids and flash drives. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm annoyed with the. You guys know this full well. I'm like totally aggravated with like the way that they're putting games out. Like,
What?
I want to see more good games. And you know what? There were even games that weren't good when I was a kid playing the NES. They weren't good, but I loved them because they were games that I got to play. You know, and like I think all of us have games like that where like they weren't the greatest games in the world, but we really loved them anyway. Why aren't those even coming out? You know, I don't know. I don't get it.
I agree with you 100% actually, because it's like they'll put out F-Zero X, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and it's like they almost were gonna put something good in there, and somebody was like, "Whoa, no, hey, can't have 3." They're like, "Throw some China Warrior in there." Fucking
Can
even
someone
that
get
shit
me-
up.
Could someone get me a piece of shit to put in here? Oh, thanks. Because that Street Fighter is pretty good.
I know it's having like a wonderful appetizer, a wonderful dinner, and poo ice cream for dessert.
That is one of the best analogies I've ever heard on Earth.
China Warrior equals poo ice cream.
It's poo flavored ice cream. No
There you have it,
sprinkles.
listeners. Poo ice cream.
Poo ice cream.
Bottom line.
When we write up the summary for this episode, it's going to say, "Poo ice cream, where can you get some?"
It's the 30-second flavor.
I hope the guy who created China Warrior is not listening to Retroforce Go right now.
I hope he is. He needs
I
to
hope
know
he
his name
is.
is Poo Ice Cream. You bastard.
He's been force fed. There's.
Oh my-
I know. So I mean, gather what you will from that, listeners. I don't think I could have made it any more clear.
Yeah.
So there's some other Wii news though. Before we jump over to Xbox Live Arcade, was it yesterday they announced that the Wii there will be. Let me say this correctly. WiiWare. That in 2008 you'll be able to download original content through the Nintendo Wii online service.
Very cool. It's about
I
fucking
think it's
time.
amazing. I know. I think it's great.
I think it's weird that they're waiting like it's next year. Don't you think that's a pretty slow start?
I think they
Yeah,
should have
I
been doing
just
that from the
wanna-
beginning.
I know, I agree, but I think they just want to hype it up a little bit, and kind of get everyone excited. So by the time it comes, it'll be a big hit.
Yeah,
finally
Hopefully
have it.
by then they'll have figured out their whole broken online system. With
Yeah.
the whole friend code deal and the fact that it just
Well-
sucks.
I don't
Tell us
remember
I'm
where.
sorry.
I read this recently, and I don't remember what article or what site I read it on, but someone had basically done like a little summary of like where Nintendo had gone from the release of the Wii up to now. And then the person said, okay, so we've got this, this, and this, and at this point, we're going to need something more than the virtual console releases or the first-party stuff to keep the Wii afloat, because it's done really well, and it's really great that Nintendo wanted to include everybody. But it seems like they're trying to include, like older people and like people that wouldn't play games so much that they're sort of kind of alienating some of the actual gamer demographic.
Yeah, they totally are.
And I'm like, okay, that kind of sucks because it's really
Which
not
is,
that
and that's
much
something
better.
that they promised us they weren't going to do.
Right, but you know what? It's
That's
not that
true.
much better than PS3. It's like I can't really scorn PS3 for being for the elite gamer because really Nintendo's doing the same thing. They're pushing out the average gamer so they can appeal to people that they don't normally appeal to. I mean, it's really, it's the same thing.
Well, what's weird is because if you feel and this other person felt that they're pushing out like the average gamer and trying to draw in like moms and grandmas, that they're not paying attention to the market that got them where they were. Like I don't feel that when I have my Wii. I actually like most of the games that I play, except that I noticed that it's like there are certain types of games you can't play, but then now I've got like a 360 for it. So it's like, okay, if I want a more solid experience, I can fire up my 360, and it provides a different amount of content. But that system itself is also hampered by the fact that now that since I own one, since I actually shop for games, I realize that it's really a motherfucking shooter box. Like,
Yeah, it's a shooter box. It totally is.
it is. So it's like I can get one or two, really things I'm excited about, like Fracture, Blue Dragon, and that'll come out. And I love Crackdown, BioShock, but that's like everything else is like Gears of War / shoot 'em on the face.
No,
Halos.
it's a really, really heavy shooter machine. Like, I feel, honestly, right now, like, I look at those 3 consoles and I go, okay, like, yeah, the 360 is great, but it's the shooter machine. Wii's great, but it's like, the party machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I want a machine like the PS2 where I can play every different kind of game.
A little bit of everything. Yeah.
That's what I want.
That's the point I was trying to get to. Is I don't think that in this generation we're going to see that from one of these systems. I don't think Microsoft can really get there with their box, and Nintendo obviously isn't going to bridge the gap to that other demographic.
But what if the PS3 went another year and the price dropped? Let's see, what's the current PS3 price? Is it still $599?
$600, yeah.
Okay, so it's $600. So what if it dropped to $499, which is still pricey in my opinion, but what if it dropped to $499? I'm just wondering, and the library amped up. I wonder if it would make it more reasonable for people. Because
I think it would.
It would make it slightly more reasonable, just economically speaking, but I don't.
Yeah, but the problem. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, wasn't the PS2 $399 at launch?
No, the PS2 was $300.
No, it was $299.
It was
Okay.
It was $299.
I'm totally off.
And then it dropped. It didn't really start catching on like hotcakes per se until it dropped to $200, because it was still pretty. At that time, $300 was still a lot of money, and it sold out. It was sold out for 8 months, and then was almost a year later. I used to know the date, but they dropped it down to $299, and everyone has been waiting for that. And then it just flew off the shelves. Everybody bought it.
I guess I'm just wondering if, despite the amount of shit that Sony's done and put everyone through, I wonder if they still have the chance to pull it out in the end.
Time will tell, but I mean, if you want to look at it, from my opinion, 200 or 250 is the number. Look how many Wiis are being sold. All right, you've got the Xbox, which the one that you would want is the premium one, not like before the Elite came out though, and that was $399, and that has over a year head start, and still isn't selling. It's not a market saturation device yet, because the price, no matter what anybody tells you, and it's just, oh, you're just not a hardcore gamer, which is bullshit. It's like $400. That's a lot to pay for a video game machine, and guess what? The 100 million people that paid $200 for their PS2 still think that. They're like, I'll wait for the price to come down. So unless the PS3 drops to $350 or $400, it's not going to be able to compete.
Yeah, plus, I mean, from what I understand, it's way harder to design for.
And that's why we don't play it here at Retroforce Go.
Yeah, damn it.
We don't even
include
it.
I didn't mean to start a console war. I just, I had this.
No, it's a good thing to bring up. It's good timing.
You were going to say something, Chad?
No, all I was going to say is that the Xbox 360 and the PS3 are so similar that that's what really makes me worry about Sony. It's I mean, everything that comes out on the PS3 can technically come out on the Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
So it's they're so similar. It's at least what the Wii has is it's so different that there's really no competition with it. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah, a different.
So I mean, they're kind of sitting pretty with that. So it
seems to me like this whole generation, Sony is just fighting to keep up with Xbox. They're not trying to do anything.
Exactly. That's
what
it's turned into
it's
now.
Just them trying to put out what Microsoft has to keep up.
Yeah. Well, they're playing catch up. That's the thing. I mean, they do honestly have the most advanced video game system on the market, but the problem is, it's I don't know. Everybody who's going to buy a PS3 that's a Sony fan has bought one, and now they're kind of just sitting there well, why isn't anyone else buying it? And it's because mom and dad and your brother and your cousin, your Madden fans, they're not going to pay $600 for a video game machine ever. They never will. And
it's not even $600 with all the stuff you have to buy with it. Yeah. I mean, when I bought my Xbox 360, the premium system for $400, I ended up spending $820 because when I got the camera and a couple games and an extra controller and the thing for my wireless internet, which is $100, I mean, it adds up. So it's
adds up really
that's
fast.
the thing. So it's if I, equate that to the PS3, I'll probably be spending $1,000 on it. And who can afford $1,000? Nobody. Even
that's
people
not
that
a
have
mass
$1,000
market device.
Someone sent us a tip the other day that said that the 20 gig was on sale at some store, and I clicked it, and it was like a bundle, and it was like the 20 gig, 4 games, blah blah. It was like $1,000, and I was like, that's funny.
I know.
That's not on sale, fuckers.
All right, well, let's get back on topic.
Yeah,
I know that was like the biggest sidetrack we've ever done.
I know. So just remember, kids, whatever that is, I don't know. But so we got one more system on our downloadable content, and that is, speaking of, Xbox Live Arcade.
Yeah,
that's your field, buddy. What happened?
Not much. They released another fucking puzzle game on me.
A board game.
Not puzzle, another board game. I'm sorry.
I think I'm the only person here who's a fan of Carcassonne.
I've never heard of this game.
Is that how you say it? Carcass, ass,
Carpathians?
Cadaver?
Cardassians?
Carcassonne.
Carcass, my carcass owns.
My carcass pones?
My carcass pones. I think that's pretty much the best name ever.
Yeah, I actually did make it through the tutorial level this time. And
yeah, you know what?
Almost.
It's just not going to be a game for everybody. It's just not going to be that type of game. You know, I mean,
it's not, and
what type of game is it?
Well, I mean, if you played,
game.
Yeah, it's a board game, and if you played, I'm sorry, Topher, the other board game release, please, brain not working.
Catan?
Yeah, that's it.
I would equate it more to Catan than I would Band of Bugs or whatever came out last week.
Well, what type of game is this? Like, I know you say board game, but it's like,
what is tile? You have tiles that have
like Mahjong?
No, not quite like Mahjong.
Paint me a picture, man. Paint me a picture.
You have tiles with little pictures on them. You have like pieces of road or pieces of city wall or whatever, and you have a grid, and you lay the tiles on the grid, and depending on how you lay them, you can build roads or cities. And that's pretty much it. You've got little guys you put on there, and they,
Yeah, that sounds.
Which that's fine. Some people, I mean, I don't mean to be so biased. I fucking hate that kind of thing. But some people are into that, and that's cool. But to release that sort of game 2 weeks in a row, like, you're kind of failing.
You're talking about, like, you know, what's going on at Nintendo. It's like, I don't even know if, like, sometimes Microsoft knows what comes out, like, every week. They're like, what? What came out? Carcassonne?
I don't know. They're like,
sure.
Okay, what's ready? What's ready? What's can put out? Like, what's done?
Well, are you guys a fan of, like, classic games we played before coming out, like, or do you like when Symphony of the Night came out for arcade, or do you guys like when they released the original stuff?
I like anything that's fun to play, whether it's original, something new. I'm all for that, or if it's something classic that we loved when we were growing up, I'm all for that too. What I'm not all for is something that is so like that appeals to such a small group of people. I think.
Well, maybe it's Microsoft's attempt to like broaden, you know, the demographic that they're trying to reach.
Be.
I mean,
but the whole like I don't know, like if you put out something like Alien Hominid, like a lot of people, even though it's so hard, like a lot of people can get into that and try it out and have fun with it, you know, or Castlevania, Pac-Man. Anybody, you can kind of, you know, you can check that out and have a little bit of fun with it. But something like Catan or this thing this week, the bug thing last week, Solitaire, poker,
Sotrio.
Yeah, it's just. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're more. I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said they just put out what they have ready. You know,
yeah.
Like Nintendo apparently has some sort of weird magic voodoo plan. But
I mean, there are people out there that are really going to like this. I'm sure if you're into that kind of thing. But that group of people is so much smaller than I don't know why they even bother releasing stuff like that.
Well, Colette, you play the real game, don't you?
The only reason why I wanted to put my 2 cents in on this is because my roommate is an indie board game collector whom, you know, I've lived with for like 2.5 years now, and who we have about 250 independent board games in the house. So because of this, I've been like kind of exposed to this whole subculture, which I've really enjoyed, which is playing, you know, these games that people are designing and really pushing to, you know, get out there in this like underground kind of circuit. So that's where I found out about Carcassonne and where I found out about Catan. And the funny thing about it is, although your average gamer, like, you know, maybe say our average reader, might not be the reader to play that game, there is a really big underground for this type of game, for the board gamers themselves, and often those board gamers play video games too. So I'm wondering if this game's not going to appeal to that demographic. Like, I have quite a few friends who were extremely excited about the release of Carcassonne this week. So, yeah, it's not for everybody. Topher's totally right, but I think there's more people that are interested in this type of game than maybe we think.
I would,
That could be, and I'm totally, I'm totally okay with that. But my only issue is that I haven't had anything to play on arcade for 2 weeks now.
You want a little more
Yeah.
variety?
I think if you're going to release something that only will appeal to such a small, demographic, you need to release something else with it. Even if it's like a little puzzler or, just some simple little, old school arcade game, something.
You
Give
know,
me
it's,
something.
it's funny because you said it only appeals to a small demographic, but I think that it might possibly only appeal to a small demographic of Xbox 360 players, because
that's what I mean.
true.
That's what I mean.
pen and paper games, board games, like that's huger than video games by far. So I mean, I don't know how many.
That's
other
what I
guys
mean.
play
When you look at people that are going to turn on their Xbox and go to the marketplace and see what's available today, I mean, there are a very small percentage of people that are going to say, "Oh, I can't wait to check that out."
No,
And
you're
it's
right.
not that,
I agree.
I'm sure it's a great game, and if I had the board game, I might get into it because it looks like it could be a lot of fun if you had the time to sit down and learn it, which I expect out of a board game, but not out of a video game.
All right.
It just seems like it would take so fucking long to figure out how it works. I don't want to do that, especially on arcade. I want to download something and I want to play it. I don't want to spend an hour and a half learning how it's done.
Pac-Man. So
Yeah,
more
no,
Pac-Man. Less
That's my
Carcassonne
favorite
alone.
arcade game ever.
That's awesome. So okay, so let's sum up. We've got China Warrior, bad. You got, what is it, Chad, that you like? F-Zero X.
F-Zero X
And Street Fighter.
and Street Fighter Hyper Turbo
Hyper Turbo Bitch Slap.
Hyper Turbo.
Edition.
Bitch better
I
have
like
my
that.
money.
I'd play that.
There we go. And so those are good, but not the China Warrior. And someone jump in there.
Carcassonne.
Carcassonne. Carcassonne should have
Carcassonne.
stayed a board game. It's probably an awesome board game, but not on my 360. Sorry.
I just
Topher
want to
said
say that
no.
we need to clear the room when Sorry comes out for the Xbox Live Arcade. Because Topher will have a conniption fit.
I know.
Yeah.
Be like, next week's going to be fucking Candyland.
No, but see, even something like that
Alright.
would be like we grew up playing that. We know how to play it.
Cool.
It doesn't have the kind of learning curve that something like this is going to have.
Okay,
All right, well, that
shut up.
sums it up. Let's go to break.
Retroforce Go.
This is Reverend Anthony with the weekly Reverend Rant, and today I want to talk about cutscenes. Now, it used to be okay that in order to tell a story through a video game, you would rely on cutscenes to get your point across. And we shouldn't do that anymore. Cutscenes need to be one of those things that fall to the wayside, and we look back at it as an archaic video game mechanic that just didn't work. Because in essence, it's not really a video game mechanic. It's a movie mechanic. Now, games are supposed to be interactive, and in the sense that games are supposed to be art, or games are supposed to be entertaining, games are supposed to be what they can be by utilizing the mechanics that are available to that medium. In this case, it's interactivity. Now, if you're going to deliver story, that's obviously something I'm for. I'm a big pro story guy. Stories are really great in games. When people like Orson Scott Card say that story is just window dressing to the main game, it sort of irritates me. But when you deliver that story, you have to deliver it like a video game story. Don't make me sit there and wait through a cutscene. Now, I'm not one of those people with a really short attention span who just doesn't want to be, waiting for any amount of time when I can shoot people. I don't have a problem with slowing down the pace so you can deliver exposition. What I do have a problem with is taking control away from the player, maybe even showing the player and basically turning it into a short movie thing that you stop, that it kills the pace, stop, this is a movie, then start, okay, this is a game, now you can go on your merry way. Half-Life 2, Half-Life 1, they are the guys who've done story the best. Now, you might say that they have the most meager story, and that's true, but they also do it in a very intelligent and streamlined and clever and specific to video gaming sort of way. For example, Half-Life 2, a lot of people are irritated by the fact that, ooh, Half-Life 2 is they don't explain anything and they don't tell you anything, and you have to infer everything that happened. And you don't like that? That's subtle and that's clever. The fact that you can look around this world, the City 17, and see all the propaganda and see all the set design, and take from that what happened instead of having to be told directly by everybody, every 2 seconds through cutscenes what happened. You really don't like that? That's a Blade Runner. That's a Children of Men. That's in making the audience infer what happens instead of directly forcing it down their throats in this annoying sort of like, oh, you're too stupid to get this sort of manner. But that's sort of aggression, because I don't mean to talk about video gaming stories in general, but rather cutscenes in and of themselves. Now, Half-Life 2, those cutscenes work because they don't seem like cutscenes, because they're just, you are walking around and you get a chance to explore an environment and look at things while information is delivered to you. You have full control of the character, you're still in Gordon Freeman's perspective, it's still technically part of the game, it's an unbroken chain. You're still playing a game, it's game. It's not game, movie, game, where all of a sudden your interactivity is taken away. It doesn't zoom out to third-person view and show you for absolutely no reason, like in fucking Doom 3. For no reason, it zooms out to show you what the Marine is doing. Why? That may be one of the dumbest storytelling devices I've ever seen. Doom 3 is a shitty game on almost every level, and its story is obviously pretty damn shitty too, but why would you ever make a game where it's in first person, the character never speaks, what they look like doesn't matter, you're doing everything they're supposed to do? Why zoom out and show that person? That's completely pointless. That's absolutely superfluous in context of telling the story, and it's just an outright mistake. And we like to talk about how mature video games have gotten and how good they are at telling stories, but this is a medium in its infancy. We're still working out how to do these things correctly, and a lot of this shit just doesn't work. A lot of it is awful. For every Half-Life 2, there's a Doom 3 when it comes to storytelling. For every brilliant delivery of story where you don't exit the character's body and you're still within the confines of the game, there's a Doom 3 where it zooms out and shows you a third-person view of the Marine going about his business. And it's bullshit. It's a stupid way to tell a story. David Jaffe, for those 3 minutes where he actually had a degree of vision and wanted to make a game where you make the gamer cry, he basically said that he wasn't going to use cutscenes ever, because if you use cutscenes, you're deferring to a different medium, and you've essentially given up. You've lost the game the minute you use cutscenes, because you're saying that games, in order to be affecting or effective in delivering a story, have to rely on the mechanics of another medium, and that's bullshit. I think by this point we need to move beyond that sort of shit. Now, it might add to some weird moments where you have to somehow deliver mission information in a game like, I don't know, Assassin's Creed, where it's very mission based. It might have to change the way that works so it's not all through cutscenes and all through mission dialogue shit. But that adds to the pace of the game. Like in Rainbow Six Vegas is really just a series of separate missions that all happen to take place within Vegas. It could have easily been reduced to a menu screen between each mission and just sort of a bullshit overview. But instead, it makes it much more immersive, and it really increases the pace when after every mission you get into your helicopter and you get to see Vegas as you're talking about the next place you need to go. And really, it's just another version of a cutscene or of a briefing mission or of just a big, this is what you have to do sort of portfolio that you're given at the beginning, like in Hitman games. But since you get to control the way you're looking, and since you get to see what your character sees through the window of that helicopter, it becomes a much more immersive, much better paced, and a much more interesting way of telling a story than of taking control away from the player. That should be the cardinal sin of games, is making it seem like you've taken control away from the player. Now, I'm not against actually taking control away from the player, because obviously in a Half-Life 2 or a Call of Duty, you're going to have to make them stop for a second so you can explain what's going on, but at least give them the illusion of control. That's the most important thing, is making the player feel like their character is one unbroken experience. You're never taking them out of the experience and making it non-interactive so you can, oh, here's a story, here's some exposition. Now you can get back into the game, because it's this distancing bullshit effect that really hurts the immersion. Why we are still doing this is beyond me. We need to move past it. If anything, it's a sign of a lazy game designer when they have to do a cutscene to show you something interesting. Valve, when you listen to the commentary for Half-Life Episode 1, it's amazing the amount of thought they've put into making sure that you look in the right direction to see something really cool when it happens, instead of just stopping, taking away control, and forcing it in your face. Which makes it a lot more satisfying when you actually do see what they wanted you to see. It's a much more cohesive storytelling experience, and it's a lot more fun. And because it's so fucking hard, I imagine that's why most people don't want to do it. Most game developers don't have the chops that Valve has, and they don't have the balls to do what Valve does as well as they do it. But yeah, that sucks, and we should stop doing it. That's really all I have to say this week. If you want to send me an email, well, fucking nobody ever sends me emails. That's all for this week. Bye.
Retroforce Go!
All right, we're back from what appears to be the longest Retroforce Go we're ever going to make. Hopefully. Sorry if that first segment was a little long, but we'll try and keep on topic here.
But it was amazingly long.
It was pretty much just amazing.
Well, now to the meat of the show, what we're going to talk about today is RPGs. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I recently got a chance to see Blue Dragon, the Sakaguchi-made RPG that was released for the 360 in Japan, and which will be coming out this August for the 360 in America and Canada. So I think before when I saw it, now they've got everybody who's anybody working on this thing. They got the father of Final Fantasy, one of his most famous composers, and Akira Toriyama. You know, as far as the artist, and it's retarded. Like it's like you're having like Spielberg and Scorsese and all these different people work on one film. You know, and but it didn't really look really cool. I don't know. Like what I've seen of it, I was like, oh, that looks kind of boring. But when I went and saw it, like actually, got to sit down in front of it, I realized that, first of all, I'm definitely buying this game, without a doubt. And second of all, I really strongly was impressed by the fact that this is the RPG that I wanted Final Fantasy to become, in a sense. Because it's so good. It has like every single thing that you loved about, or I loved about RPGs back in the day, even ones that weren't by Final Fantasy, and it brings it back. Like its story, you've got 4 characters. It's turn-based, and then they've got, instead of limit breaks, you've got the tension meter, and it's like, wow, this is what the next gen should have been, instead of like that, as I said in my article, the dress sphere nonsense that Final Fantasy had become. And I was like, oh fuck yeah. So I was just thinking about RPGs in that aspect, and how they're, the ones from that we played as kids, and how they're different from the ones today. And I think people are really missing out.
Yeah, there's definitely been a huge change in the RPGs of the past to today, and I think about it all the time. I think that I'm probably one of the most frustrated RPG fans you'll ever meet, because I feel like the more graphics intense next gen gets, the less quality goes into story and character, especially characters. And
I'm with you 100%.
I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it anymore. And guys, honestly, the last RPG that I truly enjoyed playing on a next-gen console, and by next-gen I mean this current series, I can't tell you. And that's what worries me. It freaks me out about the genre, and it's like, I see these new titles coming out, and I go check them out, and they really look, to me, like they were made in like the random RPG generator. Like, they really do. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
There's a lot of that. The genre's kind of become stagnant with all this shit lately.
I think so, too. I really do. But, see, now, do you feel like Blue Dragon is like...
It is the promise right there. Like, I told you before, I couldn't give 2 shits about it. Like, because from the screenshots that you've seen, like, last year and stuff like that, and the marketing behind it, like, we're going to get everybody who made an RPG, and we're going to market it to the Japanese. It's like...
Right, it's like, it looks like, yeah.
You're like, okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
And I was just like, all right. But no, I sat down, and I was like... And, I'm pretty open-minded. Like, I don't fanboy about too much. But I was just... so excited. I was like, oh my god, I have to play this game, because it's about story. It's about the story. They focus entirely on the story. The story drives the game, as opposed to the game being a vehicle for fancy cinemas and stuff. It's like, no, it's everything I liked about Phantasy Star, everything I liked about Lufia, everything I liked about the Final Fantasy 3. That's what it is, except on next gen. And it's, I'm like, fuck yeah. So
Yeah, that's the
thrill.
perfect endorsement, because that's like exactly what I'm looking for in a next gen RPG.
Yeah, me too.
You guys were all RPG guys. Like, what's your most influential RPG, Colette?
Honestly, it was Phantasy Star 2, man. I know I've talked about that in previous games, but I'm sorry, in podcasts rather. But for me, it was influential for a handful of reasons. It was the first game to show me a sci-fi kind of setting, like a futuristic setting, rather than a medieval setting. And I really liked medieval settings a lot until I played a futuristic setting, and I realized that is totally my cup of tea. Like, I really like that kind of setting, or just something other than the classic medieval, castle, princess, whatever. I don't know. I just think it's really heavily done. And so, I totally fell in love with Phantasy Star 2 because of that. Really strong character development. Yeah, it's turn-based, but like, really interesting story that like sucked you in. I got sucked into Phantasy Star 2 like within like 3 or 4 hours of play. Like really.
I would agree
sucked in.
wholeheartedly, and the reason, I mean, I got you one better. I think I've told you guys this before, but the listeners not. I used to not like RPGs. I used to just play action games like Sonic and stuff like that. And when I bought my Genesis off my friend, he gave me the games that he had, and it was Phantasy Star 2 was one of them. And I shunned it for a while until I got really, really bored. And one night, and I was just like, well, fuck, all right, I'll put this in. Because I was like, RPGs seem dumb. Like, you don't move, you just press commands, blah, 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 like that, right? That was my mentality. I could put it in. Shit you not. 11 and a half hours later.
Nice.
11 and a half hours later, I'm still awake and playing. I had not gone to bed. I played from, I played from 11 o'clock until 10:30 the next morning.
Wow.
My mom rolls in at like 8 in the morning. She's like, what are you doing up? I'm like, I haven't slept. She's like, go to bed. I'm like, no, I got to get to the next planet. I got to get to and I'm just, ever since then, it's just, I've been, I tried to get my hands on every single RPG I could, and it sucked back then because they were so, quote-unquote, Japan, that, like, remember, like, you know, only, like, Sega would always come out with cool stuff, but Nintendo's like, nah, that's too Japanese for the American audience. I was like, I want to play. So many things we missed out on. Oh. But yeah, that game is fucking. I have 1, 2. I never played 3, but I have 4.
3 is pretty poor. 4 is really, really good. I love 4. 4 is one of my other favorites.
4 is everything. 4 is so good compared to 1 and 2, but it's so good because it actually. This is what I like about Phantasy Star. When you play a game, it's like it's not the same world and it's not the same history per se. I mean, but it's got all the same elements, so you're familiar, and then. And all right, so when Star Wars came out, the first episode 1, 2, 3, okay, Phantasy Star 4 is the movie you wish those Star Wars movies had been. It is the perfect culmination of that series. I'm sorry, someone else talk. I'm just having a moment.
What system did Phantasy Star 4 come out for?
Genesis.
It was also Genesis. The whole generation of those games came out on Genesis, with the exception of Phantasy Star 1, which was on the Sega Master System.
Cool. Because I'm actually, like, you guys are going to kill me, but I've never had the pleasure of playing a Phantasy Star game.
Well, one really good thing about Phantasy Star, Chad, if you have either a DS or a GBA, is that, or actually a PSP, is that apparently there was enough demand to have these reissued, because you can do Phantasy Star Collection on GBA, which is got 1, 2, and 3 on it. Yeah. Or if you're lucky enough to have the PSP, it's got all 4 games on it.
Oh, I am totally gonna go get those.
Yeah, so you can play it handheld. It's great. So, you know, honestly, even though I have that handheld like reissue, I have an old Genesis and I have the cart just because sometimes I like to just play the cart.
I actually play the originals myself.
Yeah.
To be honest, and I think they're harder.
Yeah,
the original Phantasy Star. I have the Phantasy Star collection for the Game Boy Advance, and I cruised through that game, Phantasy Star 1. I got halfway through it in like no time, whereas opposed to the original Phantasy Star, I had to fucking call Sega. I'm like, I got you. Remember the 900 numbers, you know? And it's like I called him. I was like, just tell me where to go. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like, I was just thinking to myself about Phantasy Star, I guess 2, and thinking to myself, there's no map in that game. You go in a dungeon and you draw a map if you want to know where you're going, because I just those dungeons. Like, I remember going in those dungeons and being like, where am I going? Where am I going? Like it was hard. It was really, really hard.
That's actually, I was reading today, it's considered the hardest of all, and I couldn't beat that game without the Game Genie. I fucking shit you not. Like,
I don't think I did either.
I could not defeat the enemy's name is there's Dark Force or Dark Falls, and then Mother Brain.
Mother Brain.
Right.
Mother Brain?
Yeah. It's not
That's
the
weird.
same one from Metroid. But it's a Mother Brain, and it's I had like level 65 characters, and I got killed in first time 1 round. So I upped it I went to level 70, and I got killed in 2 turns. And I was like, fucking Christ. But I don't know. All right. Well, Chad, what was your big RPG background?
Well, see, I didn't really play RPGs that much at the very beginning, kind of like you, on the regular Nintendo. I mean, I dabbled a little in, like, Dragon Warrior or Final Fantasy, the first one, but then I kind of was like, wasn't really into them. But then I remember on the Super Nintendo, when I got Final Fantasy 2, which I guess is Final Fantasy 4. That's so stupidly confusing.
I know. Our listeners will understand.
Went crazy because I'm assuming it kind of was the same thing with you guys with Final Phantasy Star 2, but like Final Fantasy 2 has like such a great story, and the characters are interesting, and like there's plot twists, and like it was the first game I think I've ever played that had like that dramatic of a storyline, and I was sucked in after that. And then literally ever since then I've played like almost every RPG that comes out. Like I love them all now.
That was the only one I didn't play on the Super Nintendo. We rented it, and then I was playing it for a while, and it was all this like militaristic theme.
Yeah, it does start off like a little bit slow.
I was just like, my friend finished it. My friend and I, back in the day, we would go and get the like Secret of Mana, Chrono Trigger, and whatever came out. Mostly it all came from Square, and we would sit there and play RPGs together. Actually, like we couldn't play it unless the other person was there.
Aww.
Oh, how cute!
I like that. I really do. No, I've played games like that with other people before, and it's really, if you have the right kind of like rhythm with the other person, like how you hang out and stuff, it can be really fun to like share a game with somebody, but not all the time.
Well, the weird thing about that is like no one really knew this, but on Final Fantasy 3, which Final Fantasy 6, which is like the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest role-playing game of all time, like my number one of ever. There's actually like a co-op mode.
Yeah, you can
actually
play as a second player.
You can actually play as like a second character during the battle scenes. Obviously, during the overworld stuff and the walking around, you can't control two people. But during the battles, you can have one of like your friend or whatever pick up the second controller and play another person, which I always thought was
never knew that.
Yep.
I know, isn't that crazy? No one ever knew that, but like me and my friends would get together and do that, and it was like the coolest thing. And it's totally like no one ever speaks of it ever since. It's weird.
Yeah, I just remembered that the other day because I have that original copy, thankfully, and I was just sitting there. I'm like, wait, this is 2-player, isn't it? But I'm the only one I know within like 20 miles who would even be considered playing this game.
Aww.
Everyone's like,
I'll play it with you.
Yeah, come up, Chad. Come play Final Fantasy. But
Yeah,
I agree.
Can I be Sabin? He's my favorite.
Oh, you bitch!
Oh.
All right. Well, I'll be his brother then, Edgar.
Yeah, Edgar was pretty cool. The chainsaw like kicked ass. Once you got the chainsaw, it was all over. Like that thing kicked ass.
I know.
Yeah.
Actually, where I'm that's the part where I'm at right now. I'm just. All right. Well, anyway, no one cares. But Topher,
I care.
Topher, what's your RPG fixation?
I guess it was Final Fantasy for me, and Final Fantasy Adventure for me was kind of for some people was kind of a Kingdom Hearts of its day. Kind of a gateway RPG, because I really wasn't into RPGs at all. I didn't want to do the numbers and the text and the blah 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 and enter this and command and da 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 da. Same as you. And then I played Final Fantasy Adventure, and really, I think that's when I started to get into RPGs, was because it was kind of light on that sort of thing. Like it still had those elements to it, but it was more of an action game. So you could play it like an action game, but then you're still sort of learning how to play an RPG while you play it. So I think it's
like my first RPG.
Right, almost. Yeah.
It's like Mavis Beacon teaches RPGs.
That's funny.
I don't think anyone got that reference.
No. Sorry to leave
but I played that and loved it. And I think then I started checking out, okay, well, this is cool. Let me check out the other Final Fantasy games. And that's when I started to get into RPGs.
Yeah, it's like always that watershed moment where it's like you're not into it at all. And all of a sudden, once you get it, it's like crack. And you're like, I must play it. Like, I literally played every single RPG. For some reason, not Final Fantasy 2. Like on the Super Nintendo, I played the 7 Saga. I played all the Lufias. I played... oh god, like all the Final Fantasy 3. I drove in the middle of the winter in like 2 feet of snow. I talked my roommate into let me borrow his car just to go to the one Blockbuster in a snowstorm to rent Final Fantasy 3 when it came out. Like I almost went off the road. Like I was like, I must have this game.
Totally worth it. The greatest thing ever.
It was magic. It was amazing.
Amazing.
Do you guys have some favorite? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, do you guys have like a favorite RPG character, like of all time?
I have a few.
This is like when our nerd like side comes completely out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just like throw a couple of quick ones out there, so I don't like totally like throw everyone else off. It's hard. Okay, Final Fantasy, just so I can like knock Final Fantasy out of the way. One of my favorite characters of all time is Auron from Final Fantasy X. I love that character. Everything about the way he is constructed, everything about the way he works in the game, he is completely just a completely amazing character, and I love him. Phantasy Star, Nay is my favorite character, and I love her. I love everything about her being passive and quiet and different and not really, like knowing where she fits in. And it's weird too because
and then dying.
And then dying. Yeah, I guess I don't really have to pretend like that's a spoiler or anything.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah, and then dying. Yeah, it's so funny too because it's like people are like, "Oh my God, Eris," and I'm like, "Whatever. Where were you 10 years ago?" So yeah, but yeah. So one from Final Fantasy X all the way, and Nay, and God, I'm thinking back to like some of the games that I played, like the ones I played on the Nintendo. Like, do you guys remember playing like basically like every RPG that ever came out for the NES? Because I did. Like, I played like Faxanadu and like shit that was completely terrible. That you'd be like,
I played that.
I'm gonna play it because it's an RPG. Like, in fact, you know what? Faxanadu should be coming out as a virtual console release soon. Mark my words, because it sucks. And it'll be like like the third release, you know what I mean? It'll be like, great game, and Faxanadu.
Okay, well, that's funny. So look for that later. Topher, what about you? What are your favorite characters?
Oh my God! Don't go to me next.
Oh, okay. Chad,
I'm
what are
still
your
thinking
favorite
about
characters?
Well, like I said before, my favorite RPG character ever was Sabin. He was amazing. And I loved him too because you got to do like cool like Street Fighter moves every time you played him. You remember that?
Yeah, you had different
That was-
blitz moves.
That was awesome. I like from Final Fantasy 12. Do you remember? I don't know if you guys played that one.
No.
But Fran is like the greatest character ever.
I love.
She's
Fran.
she's one of those like rabbit. Well, I don't know what they're called. Like the
Zavera.
Oh, I know what you're talking. The weird bunny ear
Yeah.
people.
Which is crazy
Yeah.
because I'm not a big fan of like modern RPGs to bring that up, but she I thought was like a really great like classic like old school like RPG character. She has like a Hungarian or like Romanian accent.
It's like
Yeah.
Icelandic almost or something.
Yeah, it's like
Bjork.
so
Yeah.
awesome. Like she's so like well designed and like she sticks out so much. Like I think that's a big problem with modern RPGs is all the characters like blend together. You know, they all look very similar.
We all have like 100 characters, and it's like.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Here, all right. Well, to let the listeners know, I stopped playing Final Fantasy after 7, and in fact, halfway through 7, like I just put it down, and I was like, "You've lost me." And I wanted that game. That's a game that made me buy a PlayStation. Like I wasn't gonna buy one. I was like, we'll see. And then the Square's like, "Yeah, we're gonna make it all the Final Fantasies on PS1," and I was like, "Fuck." Okay, so I went to Funkoland the next day and bought the PlayStation because I gotta have my Final Fantasy, and I like the game. It's just what I find is that, and I watch my friends play through 10 or X and X2, and it's like 30 hours of the game is like loose story, but that's the game, and then there's another 30 hours of fucking useless tasks that you have to do,
Yeah, I hate that.
and that's
Yeah.
what just pissed me
Bugs the hell
off.
out of me.
Yeah, because you're like, okay, like there's especially poignant in Final Fantasy VII where you actually get to the point you're in the airship and you know that flying island that you have to get to. That's the end. But your levels are so low that you can't successfully beat that. So you have to go running around doing these like kind of like mini tasks, which don't actually enhance the story a lot. They don't drive the storyline. They're kind of like extra chapters. But the story's over. Like, you go there, you fight that guy, but then you gotta go run around for fucking another 30 hours, to go get the dragon scales and drive in the submarine and, that stupid-ass card game or whatever it was. And, and it's just like, I'm used to Lunar, okay? I'm used to Lufia. I'm used to Phantasy Star. It's like, I have no problem with, a game having a story and allowing me to do what I want, but it's the story which is what got me into role-playing games to begin with, I don't care if it... Go ahead.
Right, and
No, I was
stuff
gonna
like Chocobo.
Chocobo Tales?
No, I was going to say Chocobo racing and breeding and all that shit
Exactly.
is
yeah, I
so
was gonna bring that up.
disruptive and so just like takes you entirely out of the story that when you're done racing fucking chocobos and you get back and it's like, okay, what was happening? Where was I?
Yeah.
It completely ruins the whole experience, and it kind of really just goes against the whole idea of an RPG
Yeah.
as a story-driven game.
And it's fun to play like those side games, and it's cool that they offer it, but you don't even really get that much of a reward either for completing them. I mean, like that chocobo breeding and stuff. I mean, it takes you like 20 hours.
Wait. Hold on. I'm so sorry to interrupt you on this, but if you did enough chocobo breeding, you got the Knights of the Round spell.
That's
It's
true.
true, and I did that, but
Sorry, but I mean, like that's
it's totally it was worth
That
it.
is true, and that was an amazing spell.
But it's like it didn't. Why does it have to take so long?
Why does it have to be chocobo racing too? You know, why can't it be like you're progressing through the game as part of the story? Like, why do you have to
Right?
stop
Why
and all
can't
of
they
a sudden?
fit that somehow into the storyline instead of like, okay, the world's about to end. There's a giant meteor headed for us, and what are we doing? We're making birds do it.
Yeah,
Like, you've
got chocobo
what the hell does that
husbandry.
have to do with anything else?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. And that's like,
Let's all go to the Golden Saucer and play fucking balloon games and race birds and
I know.
But
Yeah.
when you think about it, though, like I kind of agree a little bit with Colette. Like some of that side stuff, and like I'm not a big fan of level grinding at all. But then I'm like, it comes with the territory, because if you think about an RPG that was completely stripped down to only be the story, it might get a little bit boring. Like there wouldn't be like a motivation to like, get ahead of the game. Like one of the great things about RPGs is that if you do level grind and you do all these side things, you have like an extra powerful character. So like you can go into a section of the game like way more powerful than you would have been if you hadn't done that stuff. And like just having the options kind of cool, because like it would kind of be awful to have a game where you just went through it straight, and then when you got to a certain point in the game, every time you played, you were always at that equal level. It's nice to have an option of powering up your characters.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could just do that through level grinding, but I think what I'm taking out of this is the fact that, like, back in the day, they used to compare different carts, and they'd be like, oh, we have on Fantasy. Let me start over. On Phantasy Star 2, it was advertised as being a 4 megabit game, okay, and that was huge. It was a $60 game, and then they were like, okay. Like all the other game companies kind of like followed suit, and they're like, we're going to advertise our games about how much memory it has. And then that was fad for a while, but then they started talking about how many hours it was playing. Like every ad
and
you
that's
saw.
where we still are. 50 plus hours.
50
100
plus
plus
hours.
hours of gameplay.
Yeah, here's
Yeah.
the thing though. Here's the thing. When I play Final Fantasy VI on my Super Nintendo, it's got 60 hours of gameplay, and it's got 60 hours of actual fucking game, not 30 hours of like, okay, here's the
Yeah.
game, and then 30 hours of like, I'm gonna grind my levels and go fucking, materia hunting or whatever nonsense, and it's just like,
My thing is, I don't even mind level grinding
I love it.
to
Actually.
a
Yeah, I
point.
like it too.
To a point.
Yeah.
I think everything that I kill should be worth double the experience points it is, if not triple. Like, it just takes so fucking long. I don't mind that. I don't mind level grinding, and I expect level grinding, but if I spend 100 hours on a game, and 40 of those hours or 50 even maybe, are just nothing but level grinding.
Well, that's a
What are you
bad
doing?
game. That's a badly made game. But one of the things with the newer games, and my experience I had with Final Fantasy VII was all you kind of get to this kind of like almost like Grand Theft Auto, like go anywhere, do anything you want, or you can finish the game kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it's like in Final Fantasy VI, there are many. It's scripted, but there's so many different paths. The game intentionally breaks your team up, your group of people, into different teams, and makes you go through different areas. So it feels as if you have the option to do more than one different thing, even though you're being carried along, and that's just good storytelling. And I miss that because I got out of 7. When 8 came out, it was like the battle of two militaristic nations. I was like, I'm not going to play it. I almost got back into 9. Everyone hates 9. Everyone
See,
says,
I love 9. 9's one of my
I
favorite
like
ones.
9 a lot. Yeah.
9 is the one that almost got me back in, and I
agree.
I never finished it.
9 is the only Final Fantasy that I've never played.
You know what? So many people, like in the boards and listeners and other
Yeah,
people,
they
they're like,
hate it.
"Oh, 9 sucked," and I can't understand why. Because 9 was like, it was kind of like 6. It was like, hey, this is the game that I wanted to play, and
Yep.
it had turn-based battles. Believe it or not, they brought it back. They're like, yay! And I was because all right. Here's my 5 cents or 2 cents on turn-based battles. If you have an action action battle, like if you're playing Tales of Symphonia, which is completely open action, an action battle, not turn-based, there's no strategy whatsoever. Turn-based battles are the only strategic way to fucking play an RPG. Like, you have to think everything out, like 9 moves ahead of time, and then make the right guess about what you need your characters to do and what the enemy's going to do. Once you go active, like completely active time battle, it's just a combo. It's like Kingdom Hearts is, to me, not an RPG, okay? because there's no strategy involved. It's like hit the guy as many times as you can, back off.
Right.
You know?
Right.
No, that's not strategic.
Well, you
It
know,
was
like
an
with Final
action
Fantasy
RPG.
X and things like you can set the ATB system to wait, so
10
that it almost feels like turn-based.
10 did actually have the turn base, and you could set it to wait.
And
But
that's
when
how
they did
I
10
played
too-
all the way through 10 like that.
Yeah, and they actually showed like the little your icons on the top or on the side.
Right, it would show which character was coming up,
Uh-huh.
and if you casted haste or slow or anything, and it would switch up and it would change depending on what you did.
Blue Dragon
Mhm.
has that actually.
Oh, really? Cool.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, see, I like that because then you could plan out what you're doing. Like Final
Yeah, I
Fantasy
like that a
VII
lot.
was good, but it kind of got away from it like a little bit. But when they got to like 9, and then like I haven't even played like 11 or 12. It's just like it doesn't even look like an RPG to me. So I'm just like, man, I want my old school stuff.
Yeah, I
That's
was
one of the
actually the
things I
same
didn't
way
like about 10 too was that it was so. It kind of was turn-based, but it wasn't. Like it was so fast. It only
Mhm.
gave you a couple seconds to really scroll through.
Yeah,
and decide what you wanted to
10-2
do,
is
so
like the battles are chaotic.
Yeah, it's just madness. It's like, okay, what? Bam, you're dying.
Cool.
It's like I don't have time to scroll through all this shit. Wait a minute.
Oh, I don't know. Well, what was our question again? Favorite characters?
Favorite characters.
Topher, are you ready?
I just thought
Like,
it'd be an
how
interesting
off topic
question.
can we get?
I know.
It's
Welcome to
gonna sound
Retroforce
cliche.
Go.
Episode.
Today's theme is whatever.
Yeah,
All right.
It's the whatever
we're
episode.
just kind of winging it.
Whatever.
Well, no, I mean
Yeah.
that's what I feel about RPGs, and you know, it's just like that's when I saw Blue Dragon. I was like, oh, thank God, finally someone made an RPG, and what they made an RPG based upon what I feel an RPG is. And I like this when Final Fantasy VII went to the cinematics and they had the disc media storage from the PlayStation thing. It made an amazing game. It was a wonderful game. But it's like then after all their sequels, they all just really relied on that. It was like fight, cinema, fight, cinema, fight, cinema, and it was just boring. Like I didn't give a fuck about any of the characters, you know.
Yeah.
It's, so, but my favorite character ever is the Moogles.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
good
I'm
one.
so up there with you on that one.
Yeah,
The Moogles are great.
little Mog the Moogle, absolute all-time favorite.
Yeah.
Do you like, I mean, them in general, or do you like the specific one you can play as in Final Fantasy 3?
I love
Because the one you can play as is awesome.
I know, and you get was it Dance, and he's so cute. He's a little Moogle, and
Well,
I
love
like
part
them.
2 when you get like a bunch of the Moogles, like in Final Fantasy 3, when you get like 6 of them to play as, and each one of them has a different weapon.
Yeah. Oh my God, I haven't made it to that part again yet. It's been so long since I played. I'm playing through it
It's
again
so
right now.
Awesome.
I just love that game. I don't know. All the old school RPGs were the best. I mean, I really it's weird. Like they got away from it, and that's what with the Blue Dragon thing. The guy's like Sakaguchi is the guy who made Final Fantasy, made these games like up till 7, and then he was out, and then it was just like
Which is like you.
yeah, it was just like me. Like I unwittingly, and now he's like made Blue Dragon. I'm like, it literally looks like the game I want a next gen to be. Like it's like if you could take away the last like 8 years and like minus them, and it was like, okay, here we go. This is it. This is the game. This is next gen for me. This is like Final Fantasy 8 should have been.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Colette, I know you love chocobos.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. Actually, this is not something that I talk about that much, but like most people know I love chocobos, and I really fucking do. But I also, I like if I ever saw like a chocobo in real life, I would probably like choke and die like of joy. But I also love Moogles. Like Moogles are actually one of my other. I really love all the characters that Final Fantasy is famous for. Like kind of like as an aside, you know, like they're reappearing characters, with the exception of Sid, who, like, he's a great guy and all, but, like, I don't feel the same way about Sid like I do about Moogles. Like, I would save a Moogle from a burning building, and I wouldn't save Sid.
Sid can save himself.
Yeah.
Sid can save himself, dude. He's bitching. He doesn't need me. But, yeah, no, I'm a pretty big fan of chocobos, and I know you guys were all kind of pretty pissed about chocobo breeding and stuff like that. I really kind of had fun, honestly, with that kind of side project, because I didn't feel like, first of all,
It's the
I
woman
knew.
in you.
Well, yeah, you know what? No, you know what? I hate to say it, but it might be because it's possible. Seriously, if you think about it, though,
My
because
chocobos,
it's like
let me show you them.
Let me show you them. I wasn't bothered by the fact that like I needed to breed them or like what I would do with them. Like I wasn't bothered by any of that at all. It was just like, yeah, this is fun. It took a long time, but since I knew like what I was doing it for, I was cool with it. Like the mini games where it seems like, you know, you work really hard and then you don't really get anything all that good, like that really pisses me off. Because then it's just all it is bragging rights, and I really don't like that.
Cool. Well, what about you, Toph?
It's totally cliche, but a lot of the characters from Seven, Final Fantasy 7, and Nick Broder's going to hear this and he's going to make fun of me for it, and then I'm going to have to stab him. But yeah, Cloud.
Don't do it.
Come on, like Cloud was a hero, but he was a fuck up.
Yeah.
And he was flawed, and
So
Yeah.
the
he was
anti-hero.
kind of an asshole. Yeah, but before that was cool.
He's like the Han Solo of Final Fantasy.
And I don't know, like Red 13
I was gonna say Red
was
is
one
awesome.
of Nanaki was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
from
that was
Final
actually
Fantasy
a
VII.
great inclusion.
I love
Vivi,
Red 13.
Vivi from 9 was one of my favorites too.
Oh, I love Vivi. I love Vivi so much.
See, I'm a big fan too. I agree with you both. Like on like more of the non-traditional characters, you know, the ones like Red and Vivi
Right.
and
like,
Fran and like people that just aren't normal. Like
Kamari from Final Fantasy X, I like
Yep.
a lot.
Oh yeah.
yeah, he's
And,
really interesting.
Orin was sort of more of a main character. I
remember-
really like Kamari Ronso.
Do you remember your Morrow? Was that his name? No, what was his name from Final Fantasy 3? Like the Sasquatch.
Oh yeah, I think you actually got it right.
That
Umaro.
guy-
It's Umar.
That
Umaro.
guy was amazing because he never talked and he had like the most powerful attacks in the game. And I don't think you could even control him. I think he just was always constantly on berserk.
Yeah, he was
But,
it's
like,
perpetually on Berserk.
He was fucking amazing. It's like the most random. Think about it. He's probably the most random Final Fantasy character ever, and he was
Sasquatch.
like so great.
Well, that one had so many good characters, and that I think it was
Yeah.
cool that you had you could select from I forget how many. It's like 12 different ones, 12 or 20. I don't
And
know.
they were all different. Every single one of them had their own specialty. It was so amazing. Like there's never been an RPG since that's had that many different characters with that many different special abilities.
Yeah, well, in 7 there was a lot of characters too, but or actually more so in 9. Remember, like you had like the Gourmand and all these other different ones you could go collect, but it kind of didn't really give you a reason to. Like I remember playing like Chrono Trigger and wanting to finish the game over and over again with each specific character
Yeah, totally.
to get the different endings
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
actually cared about it that much. But it's like in 9 it was like you've got like 4 or 5 characters that you know are good that you want to get that the story compels you to care about, and then there's like, oh, you can go over here and get him, and you're like, well, why, you know? Yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, as much as I really did like Cloud, but
Well, it's okay,
I
we
think-
forgive you.
Yeah,
No, I'm sorry.
that's like
I
the
have
most
to totally,
cliche thing I could pick. But
You know
but
what,
aside
Topher,
from him,
I have to come to the bucket for that one. I totally am with you.
That's
Welcome
that's
to
what
my
the Cloud
bucket.
fan club meets is in the bucket.
Colette makes a
yeah, but aside from him, all my other favorite characters are the more obscure ones, or ones that you wouldn't really like. A lot of people might not pick, like
Yeah.
Red 13 or Naki.
Well, not to get too hardcore on Final Fantasy. I mean, what other is your favorite RPG like a Final Fantasy game? Because I know mine isn't actually.
Yeah, mine is.
Is it 7?
Mm, yeah,
That's okay. That's on the threshold of like retro and non-retro. So
it is. Damn it! And you know what? I don't care.
that one's okay.
I'm not ashamed. It's a great.
Well, is
game.
yours Fantasy Star? Because you always talk about that.
Actually, no. That's probably what I think is the greatest series. But to be honest, my favorite RPG of all time is Lunar Silver Star Story.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
Which
Lunar's
came out-
amazing. I agree with you. That game is a masterpiece.
That was they re-released it it came out on the Sega CD, and so did the sequel Eternal Blue, and then they re-released both of them for the PS1. And I have the re-release for Lunar. I didn't get the well, I'm sorry, I have the re-release for Silver Star, but not Eternal Blue. And it's just so much better. Like it's just amazing, and the story is the same, and it's like that right there, that story, I don't know, maybe I identified it with the main character or something like that, but it was unbelievable. Like I don't know, I play it like every year just to go through it again and again and again. And all right, I'm done.
What's the thing with RPGs with the whole like? Why are they so obsessed with like fire, wind, water?
I don't know.
Well,
lightning,
that's a
elements?
Japanese
It's like
thing,
every
That's a
single one
Japanese
of-
thing because of the elements.
If you look
Yeah,
at any
'cause the
TV
elements.
shows and everything, it's all like there's somebody from each element.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird though. It's like even like ones that aren't even really like related to that setting of time. You know, like a Final Fantasy-ish thing. They still
Yeah.
have them. Like it's in every one. It's
It's
so
a
strange.
cultural thing, actually, and it's incorporated into their games because there's like in Americans have like the fire sign and the water sign, and
Yeah.
there it's I'm not exactly the perfect ambassador to the Japanese culture, but you'll find like Topher said, you'll find that in just about everything.
Yeah, if you
No,
look at
that's
like
true.
Sailor Moon or God, that's a horrible example, but that was the first thing I thought of. Screw you guys.
Have you guys
Um,
have you ever watched the Sailor Moon live action on YouTube?
Oh God,
I
what?
don't
Watch
think
it.
if I watch that, it may actually like hurt my eyes.
Oh no, it's awesome. It's
Are you
What?
serious?
awesome. Yeah, I watched like 10 episodes one night. And it's great because it's all Japanese girls and it's Sailor Moon. Literally, it's Japanese girls. And then when they all have black hair and then they transform into their sailor whatever, like Sailor Moon, Mars, whatever. They all have like
Right.
blonde wigs on or whatever character has, and it's awesome. And it's like Power Rangers. It's like Power Rangers. Go look it up. The listeners, go look it up. You're gonna laugh your ass off. So funny.
That's awesome.
Well, I guess we've kind of just wrapped it up on what is probably, I think, the longest Retroforce Go we've recorded so far.
Longest / most random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, we didn't. There's no epiphanies and no conclusions and no like.
It's fitting
no-
though, because you know what? That's just like an RPG, really long.
Exactly.
and got some like out of context stuff thrown in there, and
Yeah.
But nobody
That's what we
died
were
this
going
time.
for the whole time.
Yay! Yeah, we were just geeking out today and wanted to talk about RPGs, and the old ones are better. Man, I don't care what
The
anyone
end.
says.
The
Turn-based
end,
battles rock. Woo! So
I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been your host, Dyson, and my friends, Chad, Colette, and Topher, and we're going to let you go.
Yay.
Woo!
Everyone got Taco Bell, motherfuckers!
Good night!
Hooray, yay, yay.
Oh, hearing this music again makes me so happy.
Chad Consalmo!
the greatest Chad in the history of the world.
I like this song.
That's awesome.